Despite cheating being a big no-no in online multiplayer games, there is still a large portion of players that disregard this rule. Although many people assume that cheating only refers to the use of third-party software to enhance your gameplay, that is actually far from the truth. Cheating just refers to breaking the rules that have already been set in place. It's common knowledge that once a cheater is caught, they are subsequently struck with the ban hammer, sometimes temporarily but usually permanently. But what happens when a cheater not only gets caught red-handed, but still manages to find his way to the big stage of one of esports' biggest tournaments/events ever? My name is Todd, no it isn't, and today we're going to venture back to 2019 to take a look at one of Fortnite's biggest cheating scandals to date, which in turn had some quite funny but also puzzling outcomes for the players involved. I'm sure we all know how wildly popular Fortnite was around the end of 2018, and thanks to this popularity, Epic Games began racking in that cash, $5.4 billion worth in revenue. With this newfound wealth, they decided that it was time to cement Fortnite as a real competitive sport, or well game. They took 100 million of those pristine clams and announced the 2019 Fortnite World Cup in February, one of the biggest LAN tournaments to date, with the overall prize pool totaling more than $30 million. First place would be taking home 3 of those million, either all just for one player or split between a duo. The qualifiers would begin on April 13, 2019 and run for a total of 10 weeks. Each week the qualifier would alternate between solos and duos so as to give people the most amount of opportunity to win or practice. Qualifiers would be held on a new game mode known as Arena in 3 different stages. To those new gens, as the Fortnite player base would call them, I hope I'm using that term correctly. Get off of our OG map! Arena was basically the same thing as the current ranked mode, with very minor differences. To the rest of us normal people, the Arena game mode was pretty simple. It would play out as a regular Fortnite match, but with a 500 material limit on each resource, 50 shields awarded upon a kill, and, most importantly, a point system that would determine your placement against other players. Think of it as skill-based matchmaking, if you will. Points were rewarded based on overall placement in a match and upon any kill you would get. The more points you earned, the higher you would be placed on the leaderboards. The top players of stage 1 were allowed to advance to stage 2, and then the top players of that stage would be allowed to advance to stage 3. And once stage 3 was over, a set number of top players from each region would be able to advance to the main stage in New York. But all players in this stage would still receive a small portion of the prize pool. Considering how rigorous the qualification process was, only the best of the best players really had a shot at competing, though that still didn't really deter the rest of the players, including yours truly. In fact, it would only motivate them even more. For some, that motivation came in the form of grinding to improve, while for others, it was to find other means of qualifying. As the solo qualifiers continued, many well and unknown players were drawing attention. For example, Skeptic, that kid that killed Tfue and turned into an NFT bro, losing more money than followers. I'm sorry, I couldn't help making fun of him. But 2 of these players were known as XXiF and Ronaldo. No, not that Ronaldo, this Ronaldo. Pretty big difference. Although these 2 were signed to an esports organization known as Rise Gaming, they were still relatively unknown in the Fortnite scene, which is why it was a big surprise to many when XXiF went on a little rampage and placed second in the final qualifier stage, meaning he would be advancing to New York in June. Like in almost any competitive game nowadays, when an unknown player tops the leaderboard, people begin suspecting them of cheating, usually due to cope because their favorite streamer didn't make it that high. Though unfortunately for them, there was no proof whatsoever that XXiF had cheated in any way, shape, or form, or at least until there was. Another player known as Highsky would go on to post an unlisted video where he went over a replay of one of XXiF's final games during stage 3. In this video, we can see XXiF landing as normal with someone by the name of Bad and Wuji coming in right behind him, and another player known as Jesty just hovering around waiting for his turn. To say Wuji played like an AI would be an insult to the technology. Again, this was stage 3. You weren't going to get this far playing like you were on your 3rd Flintstone gummy. Only top players would even be able to make it this far. So why did he just basically let himself be killed by XXiF? Well, I mean, the answer was obvious. It was to feed him points and shield, making the match easier for XXiF and boosting him on the leaderboards. And once Wuji was obliterated, Jesty comes in for his turn, ignoring XXiF's existence and going for the chest before playing like he hadn't touched a mouse and keyboard in ages. If this wasn't enough evidence of both teaming and feeding, I really don't know what is. It's unknown whether this was a one-time thing only done in this specific game, or if XXiF had been doing this every single game from every stage up until this point. But regardless, it was clear as day that he had been cheating. Alongside this, it was also revealed that XXiF and Wuji were allegedly close friends. XXiF's defense response was that Jesty was a 14-year-old fan who knew him, and so he was just landing on him as a fan would any streamer. Despite the fact that, again, I mean, they're on stage 3, they're literally right about to qualify for the World Cup. They're not just gonna do this kind of shit like that. And that although he did know Bad and Wuji, he says that he also knew many of the people playing in the qualifiers, so they weren't just friends and planning this, they just happened to run into each other, though most people weren't really buying any of this shit. Soon after, High Sky would come out yet again with another replay, this time exposing Ronaldo. In this replay here, we can see none other than Jesty making his cameo as he ran straight into the same house Ronaldo was in, not even making an attempt to fight, just letting himself be killed. Though the lights were still mainly on XXiF, as he was the only one of these two to qualify, but the community still called for both of these losers to be banned. And finally, after days of pleading, Epic would finally step in and disqualify XXiF, as well as giving the both of them a 2-week competitive ban, meaning that nobody would have to pay to sit and watch a cheater. However, there was a little something to this ban that most people seem to have overlooked at the time. It was only a 2-week competitive ban, given around the start of May, and seeing as the competition would still run for another month, there was still a chance that once unbanned, they could both return and qualify once again, which is exactly what they did. They didn't go for the solos qualification this time, mainly because they couldn't, so instead XXiF and Ronaldo would duo and qualify for the duo section. This obviously did not sit well with almost everyone, but unfortunately there was actually just no evidence or proof whatsoever that either of them had cheated this time around, and so there was nothing preventing them from making their way to the main stage. This is where it gets quite funny. Once the official Fortnite World Cup finally came around, the entire crowd was greeted to XXiF's amazing gameplay on the jumbo screen, and I mean, just listen to the reaction. I really don't know how you could ever show your face on the internet again. If I was booed the moment my face was on screen, then subsequently cheered on when I died, I'd have just logged off forever. I sometimes like to believe that Epic Games invited them out just so they could be humiliated, but who knows. Regardless, though they got their asses handed to them, they were still able to take home a good amount of money, as everyone at the World Cup, regardless of placement, was entitled to a minimum of $50,000. So each of these two walked home that week with $25,000 in their pockets, or well, 12,500 if you include taxes, though I'm not sure if my math is even correct there. Either way, that was how two cheaters were still able to take from the Epic Games cookie jar while also being humiliated. But now let's take a look at the consequences of their actions, the aftermath. Although XXiF was having a little trouble regaining positive public relations, with every tweet and video flooded with comments and replies calling him a cheater, he was actually still finding new opportunities to further his career. He rolled the dice and made the switch over to Valorant when it had just released, grinding the hell out of it and later going pro. Surprisingly, he was doing pretty well. And something that really confused me when I first heard about it was that he was actually signed to the Disguised team's Valorant roster, the team ran by famous streamer Disguised Toast, and I'm sure you can imagine what the replies were like. I was more or less confused, as I wouldn't expect the team, especially one ran by someone like Disguised Toast, to sign someone with a reputation like his. Though when you really stop to think about it, it makes sense. Time had obviously passed. The sentiment was that he had matured greatly, though I mean, he was 22 at the time of him cheating, so has he matured? God knows. At that point he should have been matured enough to know not to cheat unless he's a douchebag. Sure, he stole a spot and money from someone that might have deserved it much more, but what's happened has already happened. No point in looking back now. And like I said, he was actually pretty skilled at Valorant, or at least to a certain degree, as he was later dropped from the Disguised team for, in non-corporate PR words, being dog shit at the game. Jokes aside though, I do believe that XXiF is a good player, just not one deserving of the title of pro player. There's a big difference there. He never deserved to be on that stage that day, both him and Ronaldo. Putting them there was like putting a trained martial artist against Godzilla. But we still may never know if they really did cheat to qualify for the duo spot. If they did, they sure as hell must have learned their lesson from initially making it too fucking obvious. The last tweet XXiF has ever made was back in October, where he celebrated a win with a temporary team. Of course someone had to chime in here. But other than that, he's been mostly silent. No streams or videos, so I assume he's either diligently grinding Valorant Valorant or working another shift at McDonald's. As for Ronaldo, well, he didn't really have as much luck as XXiF. He had also made the switch to Valorant, with both of them being teammates later down the line. But after he was dropped from that team, his career sort of took a standstill. He continued to stream with his last stream 2 months ago, and was always there to joke about or retweet any Fortnite cheating scandal that would occur. And it seems that most people completely forgot that Ronaldo was even a part of it. Like, even on his most recent Instagram post, nobody actually cares. But other than that, he's also gone ghost as well. Either he and XXiF are both running duos in Valorant or working the same shift at McDonald's. And that's about where the story ends for now. Maybe someday we'll see the two of them make a return, though I doubt anybody would really care at this point. Sorry this video came out a little late. I had some problems, so to speak. This will be the only upload this week, as I need to, sort out my problems and regain my well-being. Though I'm sure next week I'll be fine, hopefully. I don't remember if I mentioned this in the last video or not, but thank you guys so much for 2,000 subscribers. I never expected it to make it this far. Hopefully only up from here, baby. Hopefully it doesn't go down. But seriously, thank you all so much. Thank you to everybody that's subscribed, everybody that's been with me for fucking God knows how long. I've only been doing YouTube seriously for like maybe 3 or 4 months now, so it's just crazy to see how fast I've grown. It's just beautiful. It's amazing considering how long it took me to get initially fucking 30 subscribers in general. But yeah, thank you everyone so much. I love you all. I've been a Fortnite addict. You've been watching the Fortnite World Cup, and ciao ciao.